In 2010, the Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change decided at its 16th meeting the Cancun Agreements. Parties decided that countries voluntarily engaging in REDD+ had to respect 7 safeguards. REDD+ actions should be consistent with objectives of national forest programs and relevant international agreements. Transparent and effective national forest governance structures should be established. The knowledge and rights of indigenous peoples and local communities should be respected. The full and effective participation of relevant stakeholders, in particular indigenous peoples and local communities, should be promoted. Actions should be consistent with the conservation of natural forests and biological diversity, and actions are required to address the risks of reversals and to reduce displacement of emissions. Parties were requested to establish a Safeguards Information System, SIS, to demonstrate how the 7 safeguards are being addressed and respected and provide a summary of information on this to the UNFCCC.
REDD countries should translate Cancun safeguards into their national context.
The advice I'll give to the countries is to align their safeguard information system to the national agendas relating to environment, forest management, as well as sustainable development goals.
Safeguards have to take account of the national context, the country's choice in terms of REDD+ activities, identified drivers, and relevant policies and measures.
I think we have seen so many times that the policy that the government has done is always top-down, and when it comes to the field, it's not fully implemented.
A national dialogue is important, but is also time-consuming, and the Safeguards Information System has to be developed with links to policies and measures, the National Strategy and Action Plan, and the National Forest Monitoring System.
Countries have, fortunately, of course, laws, they have policies, they have regulations, etc., that already are addressing many of the things.
In Vietnam, we have developed an analytical matrix, including the set of principles, criteria, and indicators, sub-indicators, as well as the diagnostic questions against the 7 Cancun safeguards.
First, you have to have the simplified interpretation of the safeguard, so everyone will understand easily on the safeguard. Second one is to select the key relevant stakeholders. This will be important to you because you will not miss any information from the important people. The third one is to select the venue or location which are really accessible to other stakeholders.
As much as possible, REDD+ needs to build on existing policies, laws, and regulations. A good analysis of the existing policies, laws, and regulations, including assessment of their implementation, can help to identify how existing measures can ensure that safeguards are addressed and respected. Countries can benefit by improving existing regulations where necessary, using ongoing legal reforms where possible. Meanwhile, cost-effective consultations consider who to engage and for what purpose, what to communicate, how to engage different groups.
For Cambodia, we decided to include stakeholder inputs into the proposed principal criteria and indicators. It is really important because different stakeholders will play an important role to implement the national REDD+ strategy, because the strategy not for the government but for everybody in Cambodia.
Countries also have certification schemes where they have perhaps criteria and indicator processes, etc., which can be very useful also for the kind of information that you would want to provide.
It's useful to consider information collected through a number of initiatives, such as community forest programs, payment for ecosystem services programs, data on forest law enforcement, and the National Forest Monitoring System. A long list of indicators is difficult to maintain. Involving non-state stakeholders in collecting information can be useful.
Developing a SIS, we need to consider matching national circumstances with the Cancun safeguard requirement, as well as looking at developing a system that is practical, cost-effective, and building on existing systems.
I think we need to consider the capabilities and resources availability in developing the SIS, and also we need to have strong commitment, sense of ownership, well-shared responsibilities, and even passion to keep the system sustainable.
When developing new systems, countries should consider cost and practicality, use examples and experience from other countries, take into consideration the national context. Countries need to provide information in a format accessible to all stakeholders. In aggregating data from the subnational to the national level, countries need to ensure data quality is maintained.
Technical people should, number one, regularly update the status of the safeguard developments to their senior management and get their feedbacks in order to improve the draft, in line with the national policy, law and regulation. And number two, technical people should come up or propose the level of information to be shared with the UNFCCC and other potential donors.
Let's use those learning and try to plan for integrating subnational safeguard system to the national safeguard system in future.
Beyond the Cancun safeguard, the forum between the donors and the country recipient can be considered as a very important dialogue platform, so where the donors and the country can come to the common agreement.